Hello, ladies and gentlemen. And tonight, I am going to... Well, first I'm going to drop the remote for the television. That's the first thing I'm going to do. Secondly, I'm going to be going through something I found in this. The Ultimate Guide for 2008-2009. The Hockey News. Roberto Luongo, stopper who carries Canucks hopes. And there, of course, is Johnny Canuck on the top. I was never a huge fan of that mask, but something different. Luongo had some nice masks and he had some iffy ones, but at least he went with difference. And he didn't seem to be as superstitious as some goaltenders when it came to which mask he was wearing. So let's go through something here. I've been talking about standings for next year, and there's been a lot of people saying, well, this team finished really strong, so I think you're wrong, or this team was number one, so obviously they're going to be in the playoffs next year, and that's fine. But there are a lot of cases where perception is wrong. And I'm going to go through a couple from the preview for 2008-2009. I'm going to start with the Edmonton Oilers. The Oilers are pumped, as excited as they've been headed into a new season in years. That's an atypical mindset for a club that has missed the playoffs 2 years in a row. But the way Edmonton stormed to the finish late last season, the changes they made in the summer, and new billionaire owner Daryl Katz promising to spare no expense and making the team a first-class contender has everyone dreaming of bigger and better times ahead. It starts with a foundation of youth. The kids took over after too many key veterans to count went down with injuries and lifted Edmonton from 13th place to 9th in the final 5 weeks of the season. The speed and skill they displayed in that 14-5-1 run at the end of the season. So they won 14, lost 5, and lost 1 in overtime. So they had 29 points in their last 20 games. That's impressive. Through March and April is the basis for most of the offseason optimism. We probably had our best development year in 12 to 15 years, said GM Kevin Lowe, who watched Sam Gagner, Andrew Cogliano, Tom Gilbert, Robert Nelson, Dennis Grebeshkov, and Kyle Brodziak bloom into key players. None of them are Oilers now. Some of them are still key players. Take that core, add the veterans who were out with injuries. Sean Horkoff, Sheldon Surrey, Ethan Morrow, and Fernando Bressani all missed more than 25 games. Throw in newly acquired Eric Cole and Lubomir Visnovsky, and a team that missed the postseason by 3 points has to be good enough to make it this time. There are still a few fairly significant question marks, such as whether goaltender Matthew Guerin can replicate last season's career year and how many of those high-flying rookies will suffer sophomore jinxes, but the Oilers appear ready to make a serious run for the playoffs. The prediction here was 6th in the West. The team grade was given a B. They said that basically the team was getting better. So that's the Oilers. Canucks. Prediction, 11th. Team grade, C-. Awful. Horrible. Why bother playing? The Vancouver Canucks not only stubbed their toes in 07-08, they did a gigantic faceplant that resulted in the firing of GM Dave Nonis. With 2 weeks remaining in the regular season, the Canucks sat 1 point out of first place in the Northeast Division. 8 games and 7 losses later, they were last in the division and out of the playoffs entirely. Impatient owner Francesco Aquilini promptly dispatched Nonis and hired player agent Mike Gillis, a man with experience in hockey but absolutely no experience running an NHL franchise. I'm sure it'll go well. In the introductory press conference, Gillis stated he didn't think the Canucks were close to being a championship-caliber team. He cited areas of drafting and developing players where he felt the organization had been deficient. I'm sure he'll draft and develop better. Vancouver's biggest weakness in 07-08 was offense, and that could again be its downfall in 08-09. The Canucks didn't have a 30-goal scorer last season, and unless Matt Sundin decides to accept Gillis' mind-boggling $10 million a year, 2-year offer, they might not again. Pavel Demitra could fill the offensive void left by free agent departure of longtime captain Marcus Naslund, but there is otherwise precious little scoring on the roster behind the Sedin twins. Along with Naslund, the Canucks also lost heart and soul veteran Trevor Linden to retirement, and free agent center Brendan Morrison, who missed the majority of last season due to an injury, and will make a fresh go of it in Anaheim. Sundin would change everything, giving Vancouver 2 threatening lines. At press time, Gillis was in a holding pattern, waiting for the reluctant 37-year-old Swede to make up his mind. So there you go. Clearly, The Oilers are going to be in the playoffs and the Canucks are going to be out. That's the way it's going to work. That's what's going to happen. Of course, they have the Leafs as 14th and a D+, so that was fine. But it's funny because I look at this and I go, okay, this is why I keep the old magazines. Because while everybody's talking and saying, well, look at last season, I go, yeah, sure. And I mention certain teams and I go, well, why would you put them in the playoffs? Because there's usually teams that make the playoffs we don't talk about, that nobody thinks will do it. Season later, 09-10. There's Luongo again. He's the face of the franchise. It's time to take the next big leap. Poor Roberto. Oilers. After missing the playoffs for the third season in a row, the Edmonton Oilers went into the offseason determined to make things right again. But with the payroll pushing up against the $56.8 million salary cap ceiling, there wasn't much room to maneuver. For every dollar that came in, a dollar had to go out. That meant GM Steve Tambellini, who replaced Kevin Lowe, was limited in what he could do in the free agent market, although he did replace Dwayne Rollison's $3.6 million cap hit with Nikolai Habibulin's $3.75 million annual cap hit for the next 4 years, shoring up the hole created when Rollison signed with the Islanders. This is why trading out one goalie for the other is not necessarily always a good idea. Out of all these goalies that have moved, there's probably 3 that are going to be a disaster in their new surroundings. And I don't know which ones they are, and you don't have to put it in the comment section below. But there's going to be disasters. The biggest change comes behind the bench, where defensive-minded Craig McTavish has been replaced by coach Pat Quinn and associate coach Tom Rennie, who promised to let Edmonton's skilled players loose. The Oilers seemed to lack passion and hunger at the end of McTavish's tenure. He had been the team's bench boss since 2000, and Tambellini is hoping a new look and new philosophy will light a fire under veterans and kids alike, while kickstarting an offense that was sadly lacking last season. The Oilers still want to land a high gun, though, as their messy and rather unbecoming attempt to obtain Danny Heatley from Ottawa, which fell through in July twice, despite 48 hours of begging from Edmonton's management team, clearly illustrated. Oh, you guys were lucky you didn't get Heatley. But that's the difference a year makes. And they predicted them to be 11th the following season. And I think they were worse than that, actually. Now the Canucks. Remember, they were going to be 11th. They finished, I think, 3rd that season in the conference. 2nd or 3rd. Yeah, there's some guys. All right. Anyway you slice it, the Vancouver Canucks overachieved in 2008-2009 by collecting 100 points, winning the Northwest Division, and reaching the second round of the playoffs. Most preseason prognostications had the Canucks pegged the Canucks to finish in the nether regions of the Western Conference. The Hockey News predicted 11th. Or barely scrape into the postseason as perhaps the number 8 seed. The moral of the story is don't underestimate the managerial skills of GM Mike Gillis or the coaching acumen of Alain Vigneault. And that's good comedy. The Canucks don't figure to look much different in 09-10. Veteran defenseman Matthias Ohlund is a significant departure, but Matt Sundin, who joined the team in January and never really hit his stride, will be capably replaced by ex-Red Wing Michael Samuelsson. Did they laugh when they wrote that? Did they laugh? Because Sundin was fantastic. Matt Sundin, in a little over half a season, helped to transform some of those Canucks and bring them to that next level. He's capably replaced by Michael Samuelsson. Samuelsson had a career year his first year in Vancouver. He was not Matt Sundin. Ugh. The key, of course, is captain and goaltender Roberto Luongo. Yeah, captain. Captain Roberto. Horrible idea. Last season, he missed 2 months with a groin injury, and the Canucks won just 9 times in 23 Luongo-less games. Once he returned, they took off and were NHL's best team after February 1st. The Canucks will again contend for the Northwest title with the Calgary Flames as long as the defense corps can step up and replace Ohlund, who was a rock on the blue line and a great mentor to the team's young defensemen. Yeah. In goaltending, they just talk about Luongo. They brought in Raycroft as their backup because Schneider wasn't ready yet. Schneider, I'm going to get into this because it was interesting. Corey Schneider came in and played some games that year for Vancouver. He played 8 games. He won 2 of them. He had He had a save percentage of .877. And I remember Canuck fans saying, Schneider isn't good enough. We need to get a better goaltender. And as well, when Jason LeBarber came in, I remember people saying Jason LeBarber deserves to get more starts and Luongo should get cut back in favor of LeBarber. That's just the Edmonton-Vancouver example of what I'm talking about here. That we can sit and prognosticate all we want. But the fun of what's going to happen when I start these previews, and I'm aiming it tomorrow to start doing the previews, because I got to get this underway. I got to get this ball rolling. We're into past the middle of July. It's going to be fun seeing what happens in October, because we can guess and we can put teams on a board, but until that season starts, we don't really know. So let me know what you guys think. Hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through, and if you're an Oiler or a Canuck fan, let me know how you felt about those two seasons. Both the one the Oilers got close and then failed miserably, and the one that the Canucks failed miserably in the last 3 weeks of the year. And then the following season, they got up to 100 points, adding Kyle Wellwood, because that made sense somehow. I think Sundin had more to do with it than Wellwood. But again, let me know what you guys think, and I'll talk to you again soon.